Hello, it's Colette from the Sacred Rose Temple, and I have just done the energy forecast for this week and really wanted to just do an extra video on the feminine voice. It's really apparent that in our collective society, the patriarchal structure that has been so deeply weighted into patriarchy, we need matriarchy to make this balance happen between the feminine principle and the masculine principle. And that exists within all of our bodies, regardless of gender or sexual identification. We are all made up of a feminine and masculine principle. And in some of our bodies, one is more weighted to one side than the other. And you need to, if you wish to, on a conscious level, understand in which principle you lean more heavily into, which principle within you has more command in your life, and what is the principle that is in the background and why. This is part of our healing work of looking at the feminine principle and the masculine principle within our body, that eventually, when comes into harmony, comes into the holy matrimony, which we might call the Hieros Gamos or the divine union, enlightenment, or whatever we want to call it. But what we're seeing in our collective is a real imbalance, and the feminine principle is trying to have a voice. This week, all our planets, if you look at my forecast, share with us the need for alignment of the body, mind, and the heart. And these three areas of alignment, and for me in my work, the womb, which is wholly significant in women's work, is really trying to have a voice at the moment. The dissolution of the structures that have caused harm to the feminine principle are being shown. We still have one huge issue in our world within the Epstein, files, and all of that has been left unresolved, undealt with on a global structure size scale, that's showing us absolutely harmful celebrity worship, billionaires, the rich feeding off the poor. It's huge. It's a minefield. I'm going to try and write a piece, but every time I try to write it, it just becomes so big. But I think what the deeper call for all of us, especially women, and that's who I specialize and work with, is that there is a call into your feminine principle. There is a call for your feminine voice. We must speak out. We must stop being silent. We must share our truth, our individual truth. We must get in connection with our sacred sexual self and honor it as sacred, so that it is not harmed, so that it is not subjugated to the horrific acts that we see happening out there. I, my own self, took the rite of passage of 50 this weekend, and it's made me feel actually really more determined to keep spreading the female voice, to keep speaking out when anyone or anything tries to shut me down. That doesn't mean that what I say is right all the time, but I have the God-given right to speak what I feel, what is my truth, what I want. And I think many women are always making ourselves less. We're always being asked to be quiet by somebody or to change the way we speak. It's wrong. We must begin to really share our voice unfiltered, sometimes wrongly, but we must practice that sharing our voice and how we feel is really important. I, on this threshold of 50, realized what a rite of passage this age is, and this was never shared to us by our older generation. They never knew really the deep spiritual journey it is to be initiated into an older age as a woman. It's a privilege to be alive and healthy. I feel really vibrant as a 50-year-old. I feel really wise. I feel that the best part of my life is yet to come, because I'm much wiser and more grounded and more authentic and less likely. I've always been fiery and open-minded and willing to speak out, but even more so. And if that upsets people, then I don't want those people around, to be honest. And I think that the more vigilant we become on being strong, concentrate, women, feminine principality will begin to come out, and the world can get into a better balance between matriarchy and patriarchy. the whole initiation of 50 and coming into the second part of life has led me to start to begin to write a book, which I will hope to finish by next year. I'm going to take my time with it. It's really important, this book for me. I have a master's in creative writing and always wanted to write a novel. In fact, I had to, begin the process of self-publishing when I was in my 20s, and I did, but the book wasn't right. And I've not felt the book had settled in my psyche strong enough, and it's there now. So that will be a rite of initiation. And I want you to feel about your rite of initiation as women. We're always going through initiations. What's your current initiation? What are you having to overcome? What are you being asked to move into? Think about life's suffering, life's issues as initiations into a deeper, more spiritual part of yourself. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was I watched this week's, I was away this weekend, but got to watch a bit of the Euro Song Contest. And I was really shocked, actually. I don't have a TV at home. I have a computer screen that sometimes I watch series on. But having this screen in front of me and this show that was super fast, honest to God, my brain could not keep up or compute with the amount of stimulation that was on that show. And also just the subjugation of women, absolutely, in thongs, dancing naked, like so sexual. It's like sex was pushed into your face in the most unholiest of ways. And as a true advocate of sacred sexuality and not being prudish or hiding sexuality, but doing it in a way that is honoring and conducive to connection and emotion and lovemaking, and not subjecting women against the external gaze of selling sex. And I felt it was all about that. I was actually horrified. And it wasn't until the Croatian women came on and I got a tear in my eye as they began to sing ancestral chants and this field of hate women come on, and I just felt the juxtaposition of what they were doing and what the rest of that show was about. It was all fast. It was crazy. The winning one, to me, is symbolic of the way our society and culture is at a moment. What a nonsense. Yet these cloaked, ancestral, sacred women came on, and it was slow and it was poignant and powerful. And it gave me some hope, but seeded in there, and they were all dressed in red, was a deep message that the feminine voice and this sacred sexual, this ancient ancestral feminine power that we hold within us needs to become the most fluid, the most concrete, the most concentrate out there in that field of absolute sexualization and brain masturbation. That's all I can call it, what I've seen. And I do peek into the collective and what's going on, because it's so important as a spiritual teacher, you keep abreast of things, not with the media flow, but really what that's signaling on a collective conscious level. And yeah, I was truly shocked when I came away and thought about it on a deeper level. I realized how important my work is for me to keep voicing as the sacred feminine, as trying to bring women into the sacred sexual power. Also, I've been writing a series on the Sleeping Beauty, and our fairy tale has been exploited also by Disney and those kinds of ruptures of what the true fairy tale endings were. These are deep messages for the psyche. They really teach us women about what pitfalls, what lessons may come our way, how the damsel in us or the victim or the seductress or whatever archetype lives within us can actually lead us astray and bring us into suffering, and how we overcome that and how we embody an archetype so that she works for us rather than against us. So that's why I brought out a 6-month course on the fairy tales and how they affect us as women. I want to really reiterate that your voice is super important. If you hold the feminine principle highly in yourself, male or female, please write from her viewpoint. speak from her, share how she feels, whether that's ancestral, whether it's current, whether it's real life, spiritual, whatever. Just give some freedom to the feminine voice. Share the feminine voice, women that are sharing from a feminine perspective, men that are sharing from a feminine perspective, share them. I shared a man this morning who was speaking of the feminine principle within himself and how he is honoring that and how important it is for him to work with the anima in his psyche, psychologically, and understanding that and what that means for other men and for women and his relationship to the feminine. It was so beautiful. I shared that on my Instagram. So, yeah, what is the feminine principle in you at the moment? What work are you doing with her? Because we can't imagine we're doing work. We have to do the deep work with her, which is why I offer the courses. What are you doing with her? How are you giving her a voice? How are you healing her? How are you working with the ancestral elements of the feminine principle within you? And how is that going to impact our world by your share? Imagine if we're all sharing from that perspective, we create a field of awakening feminine voice. So please be part of that movement in any way you seem fit, and know that the feminine is trying to burst through the seams of the patriarchal square structures and begin to gather in circle once again. Thanks for listening. Take care for now.